Okay, thanks very much everyone for your patience. We can go ahead and start this session. So as I was saying, this is a postgraduate webinar all about the top postgraduate programs offered by the Department of Archaeology at University College Cork. My name is Phil Neville, and I'm the EU Postgraduate Recruitment Officer for the College of Arts, Celtic Studies and Social Sciences. And just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. This session will be recorded and we'll share the recording with you afterwards, and also with anyone who registered for the session and couldn't attend live. So each of our presenters today is going to talk us through a different program offered by the department. And in the top of your screen, you'll see there's a Q&A box there. So you can add any questions to that box as we go, and we'll pick up some of those questions at the end of the presentation part of the webinar. So thanks for joining. To start with, I did want to say a few words about University College Cork, as I know we've got attendees joining from outside Cork, outside of Ireland, and you're all very welcome here. The university was established as Queen's College Cork in 1845 and is based 15 minutes walk from Cork City. And we're actually marking our 180th anniversary this year. The campus is based on 42 acres of wooded ground with different university buildings nearby and within Cork City. And the image on the right is of our main quadrangle, or the quad as it's known. And it's a tradition to get your photo taken on the quad on your graduation day. But more than that, it's said to be bad luck to walk across the quad before you've finished your studies. So if you join us in September, do watch out for that. In terms of our student population, we're home to over 25,000 students with almost 5,000 international students from over 100 countries. We're also a very green-focused university, and last year we were awarded our 5th green flag in recognition of this university's ongoing sustainability and biodiversity efforts. We were also named the 4th most sustainable university in 2024 by the UI Green Metric rankings. So that's something we're especially proud of here at UCC. We've also got over 50 clubs and 100 societies, so our students can really get involved in pretty much anything that's of interest to them across a wide range of sports and activities that matter to them. And as you can see on the right, there's just a small image of George Boole, who's the first professor of mathematics at UCC. And he's said to have laid the foundations for the information age with his work on Boolean algebra. There's also a bust of George Boole outside the library building, and it's meant to be good luck to rub his nose on the day of your exams. To give you an idea of what the campus looks like, this is an aerial view of the campus with the quad in the center there, number 6. So as you can see, it is a very green campus. It's also the central campus is where all the main student services are, the student center, the library building, and the student hub as well. And the Department of Archaeology is based, I'd say, less than 10 minutes walk from this, and is actually even closer to Cork City Centre at the Connolly Complex. And a quick note on where we are as well and where we're located in Cork. So UCC is in Cork, which is the southernmost city in Ireland. About 20 minutes from the campus, there's an international airport. Coastal East and West Cork are about an hour away by bus or car. And we're also well connected to Dublin, Galway, and other cities around Ireland too. Or if you want to go a bit further afield, like I say, to the UK or mainland Europe, there is an international airport nearby. Okay, so after that brief introduction to UCC, I did want to introduce you firstly to Dr. Katharina Becker, who is our Program Director for the Higher Diploma in Archaeology. And thanks very much for speaking to us today, Katharina. You're just on mute there, Katharina, just to let you know.
Thanks, Phil. Welcome, everyone. I would like to talk to you briefly about our High Diploma program. Phil, if you could go to the first slide. So essentially, while it is a higher postgraduate degree, the High Diploma offers you to essentially study undergraduate archaeology compressed into 1 year. So essentially it's meant as a conversion degree for people who have an interest in archaeology, want to change career, have already got a primary degree in another subject area, whichever subject area that is, but have had that experience of working academically. And yeah, we are providing the opportunity to compress what is otherwise 3 years of study into 1 very intensive year. And yeah, I can speak of students who go on to do further postgraduate degrees, such as masters, and then eventually do PhDs as well. Other students do masters and then work in the industry. And recently we also had, because there's this great demand within the sector for archaeologists working in the field, we had a good few of our higher diploma graduates going straight into the profession and gaining practical experience there. So yeah, it is a degree that is especially popular with people who are already experienced in other subject areas, but also such that have worked in those other areas as well, and others who come straight out of another primary degree. So we find all sorts of different life paths leading up to our higher diploma. Phil, would you go forward to the next slide? So essentially, to look at the degree in its shape, you can study either full-time over 1 year or part-time over 2 years. For the degree, you need 60 credits. Only a certain number of them are prescribed. They're the same core credits that our regular undergrads have to take as well. But then you have really quite a wide choice of other areas you can study and fill your 40 credits with, essentially. And I'll be showing you some examples of that in a moment as well. I will say that it is an intensive degree. So it is a degree that really demands dedication. But what we find is that our higher diploma students coming into this from a place where they know they want to do archaeology, this is something they're really dedicating themselves to. They're doing exceptionally well. So we always see that year after year that the higher diploma students are doing really, really very well, very well. I've sprinkled in a few testimonials from our students who come from Ireland, from the US, from Hong Kong, from lots of different places over the years, and yeah, who find the department, from the feedback we are getting, really to be a place that furthers their learning and is also a very personable place that provides the possibility to talk to lecturers about problems you may have or about questions you have about the course. So it's a friendly place. The next slide, Phil, please. So I've just put up here a few of the module choices for this current year. So this is not exactly the same next year because some staff are on research leave, etc. So, but I wanted to give you a sense of the kind of choices you have. So I've split it up by term 1 and term 2. You can see here in term 1, you have to do one core module, which is about theoretical context of archaeological thought. And then you have a long list of different electives that you can choose from, which comprise in first year, the way it's structured at the moment, sorry, not first year, in first term, primarily of courses that look at the archaeologies of particular time periods in particular regions. So you can do the Vikings, or you can do the Iron Age, or whatever takes your fancy. And in term 2, Phil, if you would click forward, we have then 2 core modules and again a large number of elective modules, which really range across a wide area of different types of expertise that we have represented among the staff in the department. So in UCC, as many other universities, our teaching is what's called research-led primarily. So you are hearing from people who are experts in their area, and you're being taught by them on the kind of cutting edge archaeology or knowledge within their area. So in term 2, you see among the elective modules there, such that are about palynology, so pollen studies, wetland archaeology. We have bioarchaeology. That's the module there, health, diet, and disease. We also have some what we call cultural archaeology modules in there. You can look at medieval craft and metalwork, but we have a real focus on methods, if you want, in that term too. And that ranges from classical archaeological approaches, artifact studies, landscape archaeology, to environmental archaeology and bioarchaeology. So a really kind of diverse range of different specialisms you can explore and try out if you want, to see then where you would like to go afterwards in terms of your further specialization if you want to go on to do further postgraduate study. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm very happy to take more questions, of course, at the end of this session on the discussion part. This is just, again, our landing page here in UCC, where you find the kind of formal information, closing dates and the like, and the links then also to the actual application page. Yeah, thanks, Phil. That's it for the moment.
Thanks very much, Katharina, for taking us through the higher diploma. And yeah, like you say, great to hear that students who come onto the program, despite how intensive it is, they get on well because they're committed to it and it's something they really want to explore.
Yeah,
Excellent.
no, they always do a lot better than the average undergrad, I have to say.
Excellent. So we'll move now to our MA in Museum Studies, and I'll hand you over to our program director, Dr. Griffin Murray. Thanks very much, Griffin.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks very much. We'll start with the first slide, so Phil, please. So the MA Museum Studies, it's a one-year master, so it's a master's program, so it's taught over 12 months, so it's an intensive master's program. And it commenced, we started teaching it over 10 years ago now in the department. So we take a maximum of 14 students each year on the program. And the people who join our program are coming from primary degrees in subjects such as archaeology, anthropology, history of art, folklore, heritage studies, local studies. So while it's taught out of the Department of Archaeology, the Museum Studies program is not archaeology focused. It's museums focused, and hence we have people coming from various backgrounds. So the minimum requirement for entry to the program is the 2:2 honours degree. Now, while work experience in museums is not required on application, it is an advantage when applying. So if you do have museum experience, be it voluntary or just any kind of work experience of museums, that's a real advantage because that really helps and enhances your learning as you go through the program. Next, please. So the idea of the program is to provide a broad academic and professional training in all aspects of museums. So we're not looking at a particular aspect of museums. We're not like particularly concentrating on curation or education or anything like that. It's a broad overview. So we look at museum design, we look at curation, management, education, marketing, all of these things. And really encouraging students to reflect critically also on the relevance of museums in the contemporary world. Now, the program itself provides a balance of both theory and practice in its modules. But I suppose it's practical elements really that we find are a particular draw for students, the ability to get practical experience in museums while they're doing their master's degree. Next, please. So in terms of employability, then just a survey we did a couple of years ago, we found that 97% of our graduates were in employment and 64% of them were working in the museum or heritage sector. So most actually of our graduates going on to work in the sector in particular, and they're working in Ireland, of course, but also in Britain, across continental Europe, North America and the Middle East also. So our graduates have found employment in all those places. And again, working also in all different aspects of museums as well. So in curation and collections, in education, in management, and in administration also. Next, please. So this is just a testimonial from one of our graduates, Karamay Omani, who's an education and outreach officer in the National Museum of Ireland. And I think this very much sort of sums up what this course is about. So you can see there, it's very beneficial in providing her with the skills necessary to work in the museum sector. So throughout my time working in this environment, I've learned it can be highly valuable to have a wide knowledge base and varied skill set. And I believe the variety of modules offered in this course helped to build this base. So that's very much, it was great to hear that back, because that's very much what we're hoping to achieve for students who take the program. Next, please. So this is just an overview of the various modules within the program. So it's a 90 credit program, and all of the modules that you can see there at the beginning, they're all 5 credit modules, and then you can see our more practical elements tend to be have a heavier weighting. There's more time involved in them, so you can see the work placements and the exhibition, and then we have the dissertation as well also. So a good few of the 5 credit modules are the more theoretical side, and as you kind of progress through the course, it gets, in terms of the modules, apart from the dissertation, it gets increasingly more practical. So next, please. So one of the things that's very important part of the program is the work placements. So the department arranges all placements. We do placements in museums for students. While we arrange them, we closely involve the students in that process. So most of our placements are in Ireland, but some students seek placement abroad, and some students also seek specialized placements, in specialist museums that align with their interests. And we do our best to get placements for students in line with their wishes, wherever is practical. Next slide. So the work placements, we have 2 work placements, and each of these is of a 4-week duration. Now, it's important to note before you apply to do the program that the placements are unpaid, and that the costs associated with them are borne by the students. So that's just kind of an important thing to keep in mind. But as I say, we work with students individually on the placements, and so usually there isn't a problem there. So we have a number of placement providers in Cork city itself. In particular, there's several museums in Cork, and we can arrange that, but we can arrange them elsewhere also. And in order to provide diverse learning experiences, each placement is in a different type of museum. So we like to see students getting a variety of experience. Next slide. Yeah, so this is just some of the museums where we have placements. So our national cultural institutions, of course, so this would include the National Museum of Ireland, the National Gallery, and the Crawford Art Gallery here in Cork. Next slide. Also, we have placements in designated museums or county museums around the country. So that's just a flavour of some of them there. Next, please. And other major museums and galleries where we've had placements as well. Museums such as the Hunt Museum in Limerick, or the Chester Beatty Library in Dublin, or the Lewis Glucksman Gallery, indeed, on our own campus here in UCC. Next. Yeah, so also we have placements, as I said, sometimes students require or ask for specialist museums, and as I say, where we can, we arrange those. So we've had placements in places like Blanche Island down in Kerry, and on Eagle Place here in Cork, and the Cork Butter Museum, or the Kerry Writers Museum, just as some examples of those. Next. As I mentioned, some students will seek placements abroad, and we've had several. This is just some of the museums where we've had students placed, but we've had several students in the Natural History Museum in Vienna, several students in the Museum of Bath, and also several students have done placements in Malta. Next, please. So another really practical element of the master's program is the exhibition, and this is a unique public exhibition that's created by the class as part of the program. This is really important, again, in terms of gaining experience and gaining skills, particularly practical skills and teamwork skills. And I suppose it can be difficult to get experience of working on exhibitions, so this is really valuable part of the program, and really it's kind of enhancing your employability. You're adding to your CV the opportunity to work on an exhibition, a public exhibition. And these exhibitions, we partner with Cork Public Museum here in the city on those exhibitions, and they're proper exhibitions that run for 10 to 12 months at a time until we replace it with the next class. So that our last year's exhibition is still running at the moment. So one of the modules that we have as well, one of our 5-credit modules, is the museum environment. And this module is actually taught by professional museum staff of the National Museum of Ireland. And indeed, this year's class now currently are actually attending that module in the National Museum. So this is a real opportunity to be taught not in the classroom, but actually in the museum context, often behind the scenes, getting experience and training in preventative conservation, but also things like issues around collection, storage, and exhibitions. So a real behind the scenes experience for students. It's very popular with students. So just to say, in terms of obviously most of our National Museum sites are in Dublin, but just to let you know that transport is arranged and covered by the department for that module. Another thing that we do as part of the program is we try to visit museums. But we don't try, we do. So we have several field trips to museums, primarily in Munster. So there's just an example of museum students visiting the Hunt Museum there, and students visiting the Waterford Museum of Treasures in Waterford as well. And we go to other museums as well. So we do about 3 to 4 days of field trips just visiting museums. And of course, when we're visiting museums as well, we're not just looking around, we're actually meeting professional staff there as well, who are talking to us about their museums and the challenges and the opportunities that they face. Next slide. Now, the final part of the master's program is the dissertation. And as you saw in the previous slide, that this was 35 credits. So the dissertation is a 15 to 20,000 word piece of writing, of research, and it's an opportunity for our students to conduct original research in the area and really to develop your own interests and your own specialist knowledge in museums. And this very much prepares you for employment in the sector. And as I say, most of our graduates go into work in the sector, but also potential entry onto a PhD program. And a few of our graduates have gone on to study for their PhD. So next slide. So that's just my contact details there. As I say, I am the program director for the Museum Studies Masters. And if you have any questions, you can either ask them now in the chat, or please feel free to email me at any time. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Griffin, for talking us through the program, and great to have the program's goals, really that wide knowledge base and varied skill set reflected back in the student feedback as well. Thanks so much. For our final program presentation today, I will now hand over to Dr. Barra O'Donovan to talk us through the MA in Human Osteoarchaeology. Thanks very much, Barra.
Thank you, Phil. If we can move to the first slide. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to talk about our MA in Human Osteoarchaeology, which any of you who are coming from the North American tradition will know as bioarchaeology. This is a program that has been offered since 2004, but UCC actually, given that we've looked historically at the place, has had a strong emphasis, the archaeology department in UCC has had a strong emphasis on, if you like, the kind of overlap with the natural sciences since the 1970s. And as I say, we've offered this program since 2004. It runs every other year. And, you know, in case you're wondering, that's really just down to a resources issue. Human osteoarchaeology, for those of you who are not familiar, like bioarchaeology, is the contextualized analysis of archaeological human bones. So this is a specialism within archaeology where archaeological skeletal material is our, if you like, main data set. But as we'll see in a moment, we can, you know, we take a very broad view of that. And human osteoarchaeology, as you can see there, addresses key issues in archaeology and anthropology about past lives and the life course. And it asks those key questions of the remains of the physical actors in the past themselves, you know, the people who made the pottery, who walked through the monuments, and so on. The structure of the course is a bit like what we saw in the last presentation. So we have 90 credits over a full calendar year. So it runs from September to September. And of those 90 credits, 45 are for the taught modules. And the teaching is in the first semester and the first half of the second semester. So from September really to February, most of the teaching would be done by about this time of the year. And then students move into an independent research project, which they develop in that first semester. And that's worth 50% of the overall credit for the entire course. In the taught component, we have 4 courses that are taken here in the Department of Archaeology, and they range from more theoretical. So we have a course that focuses in particular on theoretical aspects of mortuary behavior, given that the human skeleton is our main data set, but also looking at the life course in general, like how that has been approached in archaeology and anthropology. We have another course that looks specifically at the history of the discipline and changing ideas of human variation over time. And then we have a couple of courses that are focused very much on developing skills and methods. So just the basic analysis, and we don't assume any prior knowledge with students coming in. They do have to have a BA in archaeology or anthropology or the higher diploma in archaeology that my colleague Katarina outlined at the start. But we don't assume any prior knowledge of bioarchaeology in this course. We also have, apart from the basic methods course, we also have a course in paleopathology, which is looking at ancient disease through the analysis of human skeletal remains. Our course, or the students who take our program, take 2 courses in other departments. They take anatomy, human anatomy in our medical school, and then they also take a statistics course with our School of Statistics. They have an option to audit a course on forensic medicine because a lot of our students actually have an interest in that direction. As you can see there, most of our classes are finished by the middle of the second semester, and we take 2 field excursions during the year, 1 local, that's built into the mortuary theory course. So we just go and look at how people have approached death and remembering the dead in this part of the world. And then in 23-24, we took an overnight trip to Edinburgh, where we went to the University of Edinburgh, but our main focus there was on the amazing College of Surgeons Museum in terms of, looking at ancient bone with all kinds of interesting disease situations going on there. In previous years, we've taken, we've done a field trip, an overnight field trip to The Hague in the Netherlands, where we have visited the International Criminal Court and the International Courts of Justice, as well as the Netherlands Forensics Institute, with which we have a link. So if we could move to the next slide. I hope that gives you an overview of what's involved. We've actually experienced a kind of changing demographic over the years since we began this course 20 years ago. And we're seeing a really growing demand, international demand, particularly from North America. And much of that, particularly in the North American situation, is due to a kind of shrinking availability in that region of hands-on training with archaeological human bone. And that is related to, as you can see there, the problematic origins of research collections tied into settler colonialism and so on. Ireland has a similar history of a settler colonialism, but so far we do not have the same issues around our research collections. So, everything that we hold is held on long-term loan from the National Museum of Ireland and very tightly controlled in terms of access. That's maybe part of the reason why we are experiencing this growing demand from internationally and particularly from North America. Some of particularly the Canadian interest is driven by the anticipated forensic excavations and analysis of those residential homes tied in again with settler colonialism, dating from the 19th and 20th century. And we have a similar process underway here in Ireland as well. As I mentioned, we have direct links with the Netherlands Forensics Institute. We also have links with what's called the Independent Commission for the Location of Victim Remains. This is an international body set up by the British and Irish governments to basically find and identify the remains of people who were forcibly disappeared in the Troubles in Northern Ireland in the 1970s. And we also have a link with ODAIT as the office, it's a bit of a mouthful, the Office for the Director of the Authorised Intervention at Tuam. This is one of the residential homes for mothers and babies that operated here in Ireland in the 20th century, and where excavations are just about to begin, and excavations and bioarchaeological analysis. If we can have the next slide, please, Phil. So in terms of where our graduates end up, so we've been running the course since 2004. For most years, we've taken a maximum of 6 students, and that's because we want to prioritize, if you like, the quality of the student experience over bringing in lots and lots of students. Our resource situation has improved slightly, so we're actually going to recruit 8 students instead of 6 for the next round, and we're looking into offering the program on an annual basis and increasing the student intake, but we're still awaiting decisions on that. As you can see there, the majority of graduates of the program work in commercial archaeology. And one of the things about bioarchaeology, the human body is pretty much the same the world over. What changes is the cultural context. So bioarchaeological or human osteoarchaeological skills are transferable to different locations and so on. So an awful lot of our graduates work here in Ireland, also in the neighbouring island of Britain. We have a scattering of graduates who work in continental Europe, primarily in Germany, but also in, I suppose, Anglophone countries, Australia, the USA and Canada. And one of the dynamics of the commercial archaeology sphere here in Ireland is that they cannot recruit enough people locally to fill the roles that they have. The same is true. I was in a meeting in the USA in January, and they're experiencing exactly the same. And this is due to the economic downturn in the noughties, when there was, if you like, that stifled the flow of people into training programs, and we're paying the price of that for that now. So, you know, this is an area where they're really kind of crying out for graduates, and you know, we can't provide them quickly enough for the commercial sector, both here and in North America. We're coming close to having 100 people in total pass through our programs in the 20 years, because the programs are only offered every other year, and that we have kept our maximum to 6. So just under 10% of those have proceeded to PhD programs. Some have stayed on here in UCC, others have gone to other universities, either here I suppose by number, most who have proceeded to PhD programs have been in Ireland, and then in decreasing numbers in Britain and in the USA. A small number work in the museum sector, so we have graduates working at the National Museum of Ireland, working in the Museum of London, and some of them work in other state archaeology sectors. I should have stressed when I was talking about the structure of the program that when it comes to the independent research project, which makes up 50% of the student's final grade, the research projects that we've put through, if you like, have been extremely varied. So we have everything from the purely theoretical, looking at you know, aspects of we'll say behaviors around death and disposal of bodies, to the purely methodological, so looking at how we measure something like age at death of an infant or something like that. We've had projects that have looked at the legislative framework governing human remains, which actually varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and that's something that we pay quite a lot of attention to in the taught element of the program. So we had a dissertation 2 years ago that looked at the way in which the remains, human remains from Sami context. So this would be an indigenous community in northern Norway and Russia and Sweden, and how the legal attitudes to their remains across those 3 different jurisdictions. That was a really interesting one. And then you know, I should mention that there are different schools of different approaches to bioarchaeology. I was trained in the US, so I come very much from the American tradition, where the approaches to human osteoarchaeology are very much based on anthropological questions, as opposed to other approaches that would be, let's say, more clinically oriented or whatever. If we could have the next slide, please, Phil. Just to give you an idea of where some of our, the kind of work that some of our students and graduates have done and where they've ended up. Dr. Niamh Daly is a graduate of the MA program, and during the MA, she wrote a dissertation on weaning practices in the past as revealed by stable isotope analysis, and then she built on that. She stayed here at UCC for her PhD, but did travel to the US to, if you like, upskill. And then she came back and applied the skills she had learned in Arizona and used isotopes as a means of investigating residence patterns of women in early medieval Ireland. She is a very typical graduate of the program in a way, in that she works in commercial archaeology. The example that I've given there is, and this actually made news internationally, there were skeletons found under a pub when the pub was being redeveloped here in Cork, and there was question mark, was there some kind of skullduggery going on? Had people been secreted under floorboards, we'll say, in the 20th century, but those remains turned out to be from soldiers from the 17th century, so they were much earlier. But she's also been involved in a really interesting project, and this was the exhumation of 20th century execution victims in Dublin. The Irish state had capital punishment. There was a debate about whether or not it should at the time of independence 100 years ago. But then capital punishment was used for about 30 years, the first 30 years of the independent state up until the mid-1950s. And that's now seen as a kind of stain on the reputation of the state. And all of the remains of those who were executed were recently removed from the prison grounds and buried in a formal cemetery. One of the individuals had been pardoned, so it was important to identify him and return him to his family, and that was done successfully just a year ago, finished last July. If we have the next slide, I'll just give you an overview of some of the work that one of my current students is working on. Brona Murphy is a PhD candidate here. She did her master's, her MA in human osteoarchaeology, where she looked at the impact on human bodies of the changing technology of weaponry from medieval to early modern period. So you can see this is part of this very broad range of independent research projects. It was one of her classmates who looked at the legal aspects of the legal status of the Sami remains. And Brona has gone on, she's now doing a PhD building on that earlier work, looking at the impact on human bodies of 19th and particularly 20th century warfare. So the fieldwork she's already carried out was in Spain, looking at mostly execution victims from the Spanish Civil War, which was in the mid-1930s. And in June, July, she's traveling to France to look at, to work with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. This is a commission that is still more than a century after World War I, recovering and hopefully identifying the remains of soldiers from that era who would, their manner of death would have been very different from the execution victims from the Spanish Civil War. So that just gives you a flavor of the kinds of topics that our students cover. If we move to the next slide, just in terms of the entry requirements for our program, we ask that people would have a BA in archaeology or anthropology. Another route, if you have a degree in anything, engineering or whatever, bachelor's degree, you can come via the higher diploma in archaeology that we heard about at the beginning of this session. And then in terms of the entry requirements, because we take a small number of students and our emphasis is on the quality of what we deliver, we set the bar quite high, so we have a 2-1 or equivalent in the primary degree. And maybe Phil's office and our international office, if for those of you who are from outside the Irish system, our international office would be able to help you with what would be the equivalent in terms of local GPAs and so on. Okay, so I'll leave it there. Thank you. Thank you, Phil. And if you have any questions, please either get in touch with Phil or you can get in touch with me directly.
Thanks so much, Barra, for taking us through the program. And yeah, it's really kind of amazing to see what our graduates have been doing, and that it's not all just out there as well, that there's work they've been doing. And it's, like you said, the former Nancy Spain's pub, that's about 15 minutes walk from here, and that was quite a big project, and yeah, really hit the headlines when that discovery was made. Okay, so I will open up now for any questions that people might have for the remainder of the session. I think there's a couple have come through already. Just take a look. A question from somebody who has a Bachelor of Social Science and Anthropology from a university in Bangladesh, asking if they're eligible based on their CGPA. What I can do, and related to Barra's previous point there, is just put a link in here as well to our entry requirements comparison page for any applicants who maybe are coming from outside of Ireland, and there's quite a broad review of the application or the eligibility requirements per country as well. So that should be helpful in answering that question for you. Question then as well regarding museum studies and whether the Cork Public Museum is one of the potential work placements in museum studies. Griffin, I think you might have mentioned that one during the
So so a number of our placements take place in museums in Cork. So we've had several students do their work placements in Cork Public Museum, again the Crawford Art Gallery, the Glucksman here on campus, and Nanonegel Place. So they'd be ones where we've had students on multiple years do placements, but as I say, there's opportunities for placements elsewhere as well. Yeah.
Thanks. And the question regarding international students and whether a student visa is required. So yes, that would be required for any international students, and they would need to study full-time as well. There's the option for the higher diploma, I think, to take it part-time over 2 years. But that wouldn't be an option for international students who need a visa. Good question from someone here about practicalities of completing the course and whether it's possible. I'm not too sure which course they're talking about, but would it be possible to still live in Dublin, come to Cork as necessary for lectures, or is it more practical to be living in Cork to complete any of these programs? I would say the definite answer is that yes, it's more practical to live in Cork, and I suppose that length of a commute is not one we'd really advise students to take on, because you're talking about 3 hours each way on any day that you need to be in Cork for your lectures, for tutorials, for any of the local field trips and things like that as well. And just to clarify as well, there isn't an option to take these courses online. They'll be on-campus programs.
Yeah, very much so. And I think we've all sort of emphasized anyway, and this would be a particular strength of the archaeology department as well, that there's a real emphasis on practical skills in all of these programs. Just in terms, Phil, there, what you were saying in terms of commuting and things like that, with the museum studies program in particular, we concentrate our teaching on Mondays and Tuesdays for the most part. So that does suit students who might be living further away than Cork. There is, though, of course, certain weeks that you have to be, like the placements are full-time, for instance, and you need to be around more in terms of the exhibition and things like that. But I suppose it is possible not to live in Cork, but I think Dublin, all right, might be a bit difficult. You would need to be overnighting certainly to get your classes on the Monday and Tuesday anyway.
If I can add the higher diploma perspective to that is, if you're doing it full time, you have lectures every day, so there's no wiggle space really. Part-time students have sometimes tried to schedule their classes or choose their electives in such a way that perhaps 1 day a week or so is free, but yeah, it's not a straightforward thing, So.
Yeah, from the perspective of the MA Human Osteoarchaeology, certainly for the first semester, like it has actually been done, but for the first semester, that would be really difficult because you are in class every day. Once our students move, like our statistics course actually runs the full academic year, but that would be 2 hours a week once the other courses finish. I suppose when the students move into independent research mode, it would be possible to commute.
Thanks very much, everyone, for giving your perspective on that as well.
Yeah, that's the same would apply actually in the museum studies program, that when it comes into dissertation, the dissertation stage, it's possible to commute at that point. You wouldn't necessarily have to be living in Cork for the completion of the dissertation. So that sometimes suits people with student accommodation. So with kind of letting terms and things like that, yeah.
Okay, a couple more questions there I can see. Someone as well asking about any commercial opportunities that would be available after the higher diploma programs. So maybe you're asking, you know, practical experience they could take on and fieldwork experience
What's the
they could
question?
gain.
I can't see the question in the chat. Somehow these questions don't appear here. But it was
yeah.
about commercial opportunities, yeah?
Yeah, commercial opportunities
Yeah.
available to students upon
Yeah, at the
completion of the
moment
higher diploma.
there's a great demand for field archaeologists in Ireland, and also for specialists further down the road. But in the first instance, if you come out of the higher diploma, it's definitely possible to just start working for consultancies. So they have so far and most likely will be taking on people who come out of the higher diploma. And one of them this week was just appointed as a post-ex. That's basically the part of the field work where you sit in the office and you work with the finds and process and do more kind of high-level stuff. One of our former high diploma students was just promoted in one of the companies that I happen to know, to that role. So I was taken on for that role. So yes, it is definitely possible. And it's always good to do as well, to get that practical experience before you go into another postgrad degree.
And I know as well, I think I would have met with some of your last year's students. They were already lining up positions to do with, road infrastructure projects around Ireland and the archaeological requirements around those. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, the roads are the big providers at the moment, but there's other schemes coming as well, so yes, there's plenty of work at the moment.
A question as well, again, maybe for Griffin, just regarding the maybe some of the other past exhibitions created by the museum studies students. So this attendee here saw that there was one about Cork and the Roman world. I'm wondering if there's maybe some other past exhibitions you might be able to refer to.
Yeah, we've run an exhibition every year. I suppose I myself have been involved with the exhibition module for the last 5 years, and previously it was other colleagues who ran that module with the students. But yeah, so we've had Cork and the Roman world was one that we had the year before last, and last year we had an exhibition on carved stone in Munster. So looking at carved stone and art, I suppose, from the Neolithic through to the medieval period. We've had other exhibitions dealing with kind of more museological themes. We've had an exhibition recently as well connected with World War I and Irish involvement in that. So it can vary. It can be quite varied, yeah. But the theme of the exhibition is usually worked out with the museum. So it's a kind of collaboration between the archaeology department and Cork Public Museum, and then the students then are tasked with they're given the theme, and then they're tasked with actually bringing the exhibition together. And that, I mean, I suppose students are always surprised, if you like, by the amount of work that goes into an exhibition. It gives them a real appreciation for it, and we work in teams, so everybody gets a chance to work on exhibition text. Everybody gets a chance to work with objects and object labels, but then there are various teams then will deal with things like audio-visual or education aspects of it, or marketing the exhibition. So all of these different aspects. So it's very collaborative, and it's really, as I say, it's really in the hands of the students to do. And then we usually have an official launch of the exhibition, and that's in the last few years that's been done by the Lord Mayor here in Cork, and so that's a nice occasion as well for students and for their families as well, and friends who can attend.
Thanks so much, Griffin. And just somebody as well asking about touring the campus here in Cork, meeting with any potential to meet with any of the current students on those programs. I know we do have a number of testimonials on the program pages from students that have completed the programs in the past. I'm not sure if it's possible to link up with some of the current students that are here now, but I would say for anyone interested in getting a sense of the campus, there are campus tours that are free to the public on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 3 p.m. And you can inquire about that about those with our UCC shop as well, with all of our campus hoodies and things like that. So definitely worth checking those out if you're interested in coming to Cork and just to have a look around the campus. Okay. I can see there's just a question as well about employment opportunities from the Osteoarchaeology program. I'm conscious of time, but I'll definitely share the recording with everybody that's registered for this session, so you can watch that back as well, or to give us a very good overview of those opportunities too.
Yeah, as I said, certainly in the commercial sector, we can't provide enough specialists at the moment to meet the demand. So yes, there's a very strong demand, and human remains are almost a ubiquitous find in archaeological excavations. These are such a common find. So yes, there are plenty of opportunities for employment.
Okay, maybe we take one more question that's just popped up as well about how involved students are with selecting objects for exhibitions that they put on within the confines of host museums as well.
Yeah, it'll depend on I mean, it's a collaborative project, if you like, with Cork Public Museum. So it'll depend. We'll be led by that, but students certainly get to work with objects. That's very important to us, being an archaeology department. And so it'll depend, but everyone would be involved in working with objects and in researching those objects and writing up, interpretive text related to them. So that's a really important aspect of the exhibitions. And I suppose just in terms of the themes of the exhibitions can vary. It's mostly history and archaeology, yes, rather than art. But as I say, last year's exhibition kind of leaned on the kind of art angle a bit, so it can vary. But what's really important in our exhibitions is that all of our exhibitions are object focused, and objects are always central to the exhibitions that we do. So that's a very important aspect of it. In terms of anyone coming to campus as well, like if anyone wants to meet me in relation to the Museums Studies program, just pop me an email. I'd be happy to meet with any prospective students.
Thanks, Griffin. And I'll just pop a quick link in the chat as well, just for people, so they'll have our link to our UCC Apply application system. And thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. And thanks as well to our presenters for taking us through the different programs offered by the Department of Archaeology. It's been great to hear about the programs firsthand from all of you. So I hope everybody that's attended has found it very helpful, that you feel more confident now about making your application and what the programs involve and what the requirements are. And like I say, I'll be in touch in the next week or so too with the recording link, so you can watch back any sections that you want to, and provide some links in that follow up as well. So thanks very much everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Bye for now. Thank you.